that sort of mirrored on a weird horseshoe part of the right that is now arguing sort of the same thing, that the problems that people have are intractable, that there's a shadowy group that's manipulating all of this, that America actually was never great. America.
What's going on, you guys? We have Ben Shapiro getting completely taken apart by Kyle Kulinski. Kyle Kulinski is calling out Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is wanting to make fun of different skeptics, not supporting Israel, and Kyle Kulinski has had enough of Ben Shapiro. Let's get into it.
So Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro are on Fox News here, and they are coping and seething at the fact that there are a bunch of right-wingers now who are anti-Israel, who are Israel skeptical, to say the least. They're going to have a little whine fest, a little moan fest here. I can't help but think that in the back of their minds, they're primarily thinking of Tucker Carlson for one, Nick Fuentes for another. And so let's see what they have to say, and we'll break it down.
We, you and I, have people who we thought were conservatives sound a lot like the Marxist Islamists who were attending this event last week, don't they?
They literally have, they have one trick. They have one trick. Come up with bad-sounding thing, throw that label on anybody who disagrees with you, right? Surprised they didn't say Hamas, right? But usually you're an anti-Semite, you're Hamas, or now they're going with, these right-wingers are, quote, Marxist Islamists. Really? Really? We're supposed to believe there aren't even left-wingers who are Marxist Islamists, which, by the way, is kind of a contradiction in terms because Marxists are usually atheists, right? But there aren't even left-wingers who are Marxist Islamists. And now you're saying there are right-wingers who are Marxist Islam. What am I going to do with these people? Can you try to make an argument that sounds remotely fucking convincing, please? Just make it so I have to think about it for 2 seconds.
Attending this event last week, don't they?
I think it's exactly right. Unfortunately, there's a grievance culture that has become the dominant strain on the left that says that all people in the world who are poor, who have bad lives, that is the fault of the West, that is the fault of Israel, it's the fault of capitalism, it's the fault of the Jews, it's the fault of anyone except for themselves. They have no agency, and thus all the systems must be torn down from the rooftops all the way down to the ground.
Yeah, that mindset is purely a left-wing mindset. There are no right-wingers who say, man, we really need a page one rewrite of this shit. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. No right-wingers say that. That is a purely left-wing view. And that view happens to be correct. Like, I love how Ben Shapiro looks at a system where the bottom 80% of Americans hold only 7% of the wealth, and he thinks, that makes sense. I love how he sees the top 1% holding 30% of the wealth, that's $43 trillion, and he thinks, that's good. The bottom 50% has 2.6% of the wealth, and he thinks, that's how it should be.
And Ben Shapiro, we already know he just comes in with a few talking points, and the rest is just him wanting to use misdirection. That, like, all he has is just debate tactics at this point. Most of the words that are coming out of his mouth, as Kyle Kulinski is saying, it's just word salad at this point. Ben Shapiro is not saying anything of actual substance.
3 billionaires have more wealth than the bottom half of the country combined. And he thinks this is how it should be. Like, this makes sense. This is good. This is meritocracy. It's just incredible to me the way that this guy thinks. Like, it is all fucking... he's so cucked to the hierarchy, and he will defend it no matter how out of whack it gets. And it's already insanely out of whack.
That sort of mirrored on a weird horseshoe part of the right that is now arguing sort of the same thing, that the problems that people have are intractable, that there's a shadowy group that's manipulating all of this, that America actually was never great. America was wrong in World War II. America never landed on the moon. And these kind of two forces are now bizarrely joining hands in the middle. It's very strange.
Look, I can say with a lot of certainty, there is no joining in the middle. It's still fuck Tucker Carlson now and forever. Yes, he's more anti-Israel than you are, right, Ben? But he still does the show, oh, I like Israel. He still does that whole shtick, right? Like, he's not where I am. He just does this stupid, like, oh, what about America first? Why are we focusing on that when we should focus on this? And it's like, that's not the same thing as saying genocide is unequivocally bad and wrong and Benjamin Netanyahu should be arrested and put behind bars for life. Those are different perspectives. One is that, like, anti-war right-wing perspective, which never comes with moral terms and ethical terms. That's different from what we're doing.
was never great. America was wrong in World War II. America never landed on the moon. And these kind of two forces are now bizarrely joining hands in the middle. It's very strange.
Do you think there's enough of an effort to push back? I find that conservative groups and conservative organizations that have these weekend events and these seminars, whether they're for young people or think tanks or that sort of thing, they sort of sprinkle these events with these kooks. They sprinkle these events with these American haters who claim to be American firsters and are fake MAGA and even stab the president in the back.
Oh, my God. They're fake MAGA and they stab the president. So, in other words, if you disagree with Trump on like 3% of things and you're in MAGA, well, you're no longer MAGA. Why? Because the thing that they were disagreeing with Trump on was bombing Iran. And, of course, Levin and Ben Shapiro desperately wanted to bomb Iran. So now they're like, we agree with Trump, you're fake MAGA. We agree with Trump, you're fake MAGA. It's so fucking disingenuous because we all know there are issues where Trump agrees more with the Tuckers of the world than he does with Ben Shapiro. And on those issues, you guys would disagree with Trump. Ben Shapiro has publicly disagreed with Trump on a number of issues. Do they get to now turn around and say, well, you're fake MAGA? It's like, no, you all are still in the fucking tent. Like, you're all still MAGA.
Funny that this is the tactic that Ben Shapiro is using. He's wanting to say you don't support Israel, then you're on the left, or you're with the leftists. That's what you're doing. When it's funny that the far right, the farthest of the right, those are the ones that are wanting to say these things about whatever. It's actually the ones that are more in the middle that would be supporting Israel, as far as what I can tell. I don't see anyone far right supporting Israel whatsoever.
They're doing this thing where it's like, I represent true MAGA. No, I represent true MAGA. And it's like, bro, at the end of the day, Trump himself is all that MAGA is. It's a fucking personality fascist death cult. Like, wherever he goes is where it goes. And you all fucking know that. But you're desperately trying to gain favor with the audience by saying, well, we're true MAGA and Tucker Carlson is not and Nick Fuentes is not.
Who claim to be American firsters and are fake MAGA and even stab the president in the back.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely an attempt by some of these organizations to, quote unquote, maintain the big tent. But the reality is that, as many have said, the problem with a big tent is that you may end up with many, many clowns inside. And the most fundamental thing is that just because you're saying somebody votes Republican, that does not mean that they ought to be the preacher at the front of the church. They're not the person who ought to be leading the movement if they are spending all day criticizing the president of the United States as covering up a Mossad rape ring or being a tool.
Okay, but he is. You don't get to do this. Well, they tell the truth, so they don't get to be at the front of the line. It's like, okay, well, then what you're saying is we want to be the liars who lead everybody as opposed to people who are telling the truth about that.
There we have it, you guys. We have Kyle Kulinski calling out Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is wanting to shift the narrative, change the story completely. Kyle Kulinski is not going to let him get away with this. So he's not going to let him get away with this. Just point blank, period. Ben Shapiro versus Kyle Kulinski. Kyle Kulinski comes back victorious. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. It's another day in the progressive way.